So today I'm going to show you guys how to replace an iPhone battery. So this is not going to be specific to only iPhone 11. Even though today I do have an iPhone 11, this is not going to be specific towards only an iPhone 11. This is going to apply to all makes and models of iPhones. There might be some subtle differences here and there, but for the most part, it's going to follow exactly what I say in this video. So I'm going to be trying my best to make the most detailed guide there is on YouTube for how to fix an iPhone. I'm going to be going over where to source parts, what type of tools that you need, and how to do this repair thoroughly and completely. So I'm going to be putting timestamps in the description where you could skip around if you already know some stuff or you already have parts. You can just jump towards the repair right now. So I'm going to be starting off with why you want to change your iPhone battery. So changing an iPhone battery is very, very important. Overall, it will probably benefit you in a big deals in terms of convenience. So what I mean by that is over the years, over many uses of the battery, charging and draining out, your battery is going to lose health over time. It's not going to hold as much charge as it was day one out of the box. So after 2 or 3 years, you might start to notice instead of going a full day without needing to charge your phone, now you might need to charge your phone at noon just to make it past the day to get home and charge. So this is definitely going to be an annoyance, I feel, for a lot of people. So that's why I would recommend changing out your battery every few years. So to view your battery health, all you need to do is to go into settings, go hit battery, and then you can see your battery health right here. If you tap on this, right there, maximum capacity. So for this phone in particular, it has 86%. So what I recommend people do is to generally, once it hits around 80% and definitely 70%, I would say to change out your phone battery. This phone right here has hit 86, which is definitely on its way out, but I would recommend changing it once it hits around 80 to 70. Now that we know why we want to change our battery, I'm going to go over some of the parts that we need for this repair. For the tools that we need, we don't really need any specialty tools. We just need like some basic screwdrivers, some prying tools, and that's about it. So this is an iFixit set that I use. You don't need to get this exact set. You can buy similar sets as this on Amazon and maybe Best Buy as well for around $10 to $20. Nothing too fancy, just need your basic screwdrivers with some screw bits and some prying tools, and that's all you need to do for this repair. Another tool that is very useful in this repair that I've noticed is to have something like a hair dryer. So a hair dryer is going to save you a lot of time when it comes to prying up that iPhone. Nowadays, these iPhones have a lot of adhesive on the edges. So heating it up with a hair dryer is definitely going to help loosen up the adhesive to make taking off the screen easier. Now that we've got the tools out of the way, I'm going to go over where to source parts. The battery that I'm going to be using for today's repair is an X-Gap battery. So X-Gap is the brand that I use, and I generally have not had any issues with these batteries. I've used these on different clients' phones for my repairs, and they haven't given me an issue. In the past, I've also used iFixit batteries as well and OEM batteries. Those are all solid choices for the repairs. One thing to note is when you're sourcing these batteries, I would generally stay away from finding batteries off of unreputable sellers on eBay and unreputable sellers on AliExpress as well. Sometimes they could sell you a cheap battery, which one is kind of sketchy to put on an expensive phone, and also it is and sometimes the battery health of those deteriorate really, really quick, which I would not recommend. So like these batteries over here could last 2 years, but maybe those could only last about a year. So definitely I would pay very close attention to where you source these batteries. And again, if you don't really know where to source these batteries, I definitely recommend going to X-Gap or iFixit for all your battery needs. So now that we have the battery out of the way, we can get to repairing the iPhone. So the first thing obviously you want to do is to shut off your iPhone. So for iPhone, I believe 10 and up, you can just hold the power and the volume up button, and then you can slide for power off. That is how you shut off an iPhone. Now that we got that out of the way, pretty easy, right? So to start off by opening your iPhone, you're going to need a P2 bit. So this P2 bit is going to be useful for these bottom 2 screws right here. This is pretty easy. You just put your screwdriver in and untwist. So now that we have those 2 screws removed from the bottom, we could grab our hairdryer. So this hairdryer, as I said, is going to loosen up the adhesive around the edges, which is going to be really useful when it comes to prying up the screen. So I'm just going to start heating it with the hairdryer. All right. So now that we have hit it with the hairdryer, I recommend getting like a little suction cup like this, attaching it to the phone, simply like that, and then start prying it up. And then you can fit a little guitar pick inside here as you pry up. So now that I have like a guitar pick right here, I usually like to grab a few more of these and just go around the edges. So now one really important thing to know about moving down the edge is to be very, very careful of not poking the pry tool too far into the phone. So there's going to be wires all inside here, and the last thing you want to do right now is to snap a wire or to like run a wire or to basically snap a wire. Snapping a wire is going to break the screen, and you could lose features for your Face ID as well. So that is definitely something you don't want to do. So as you're prying around the phone, you want to be very, very gentle and careful about how much force how deep you're going into the phone. And also, you also want to be very careful about the upward force that you put on. If you put too much upward force up here, you put too much strain on the glass, you could also shatter your glass as well. So that is 2 very important things that I would say about opening up this iPhone. So now as I'm running this pick down here, I have made a little crack down here. So I'm going to do the same for up there as well. And once again, just take your time. If this is your first time ever opening an iPhone, it definitely seems intimidating, but I would say just take your time with this repair. All right. So at this point, I basically have the phone all pried up. Before prying up your phone completely, you're going to, if you look down the screen, you can see that there are wires on one edge. It's almost like a clamshell. You want to open it up on the wire side, so the wires are over here, and then it just flips open, kind of like a notebook. So as I'm going up, you're going to see that adhesive start to release from the phone. And just like that, we are in the phone. So at this point, I would recommend finding something like a box to try to like pry up this clamshell like this. I have like a tiny little box kind of like this right here to add as a pry. You don't want your phone flying flat, because then again, these cables right here, you do not want to bend these. Okay, so now that we have the phone like this, our first goal right now is to disconnect the battery. Disconnecting the battery is very, very important when it comes to working on any sort of electronics. It ensures that you don't fry anything by accident, and it's a good habit to get into when you're working on electronics. So the battery on this particular iPhone 11 is going to be right under this tiny panel right here, right where this cable runs. So right over here. So to get these covers off, you're going to need to start with a Y000 bit. A Y000 bit. There's going to be 3 screws, 1, 2, and 3 that need to come off. And then this last screw is, you're going to need to be very careful not to bend that cable right there. And now you just remove that clip, or that brace right here. Just like that. And then right over here, right under this cable right here, you're gonna see like a little metal piece, and that needs to be disconnected because that's the battery. So right now we have disconnected the battery. So right now it's safe to disconnect anything else on the phone. So after the battery is disconnected, we can work on trying to disconnect the front panel. So the front panel is going to be hidden, all the connectors for the front panel are going to be hidden under this bracket right here. And this bracket's going to be the same as that little L piece. It's going to be 5 screws. And once again, tweezers to remove that brace off. After we have that panel off, all we need to do is disconnect 3 cables and then we have the screen off. These 2 connectors are for the screen and then this one is for our Face ID. So all we need to do is disconnect this one, and this, and we have our screen off. All you have to do is do a light lift, and then just like that, we have our panel off. So now once we have the screen off, we can work on trying to get the battery off. So we're going to have to remove the speaker and the Taptic engine in order to get access to these pull tabs to remove the battery. So to get started on that, we're going to first remove this tiny little brace. So this brace is going to be connected at 5 different screws, I believe, right here, 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 and here. So all we needed to do is grab a Phillips head and start working at these screws. Now that we have the brace off, we can worry about getting this Taptic engine off. The Taptic engine is also going to be pretty simple to remove. It's just going to be 3 screws, 1 located here, here, and the final one is going to be under this tiny little plastic piece. This tiny little screw is going to be accessible by lifting up this plastic peel. And then you can see how there's 2 screws located under here. The one that's connected to this metal brace is the one we're focusing on. So while this thing is peeled back, all you need to do is grab a tiny little Phillips head and start unscrewing. This plastic piece is going to reveal a little clip once you lift it up. Kind of like that. It was resting like this, and now we have it like that. Put that to the side, and then we could see that there's a connector right here for the Taptic engine. More of the same, less with the displays. We just grab a little spudger and then try to release this. Just like that. Only 2 things that are keeping this Taptic engine in place right now are these 2 screws at the bottom, right here and here. And all we have to do is unscrew them. The pair of tweezers now, you can just remove the Taptic engine. Just like that. With the Taptic engine out, we can now focus on getting this speaker out. So the speaker is going to be more or less the same. We're just going to be unscrewing, nothing else. There's no connectors for this. There's going to be 3 screws that connect this speaker to the phone. So the 3 screws that we're going to be focusing are right here, here, and right here. So you focus. So this one is going to be a Phillips head right here, and this one's going to be a standoff. So the standoff one, you notice that a Phillips head is not going to work in this case. It's not going to turn. So what I like to do for these standoff screws is grab a flathead bit, kind of like this, and then put it on my screwdriver. And that should give me enough force to turn these standoff screws. Just like that. It's off. I'm going to repeat this process right here, but for this Phillips head. And then the speaker's still not loose completely, but because this screw right here is holding it on place. Once this is released, you can flip up this little cover right here, and then we'll reveal 1 more standoff screw that we need to unscrew. Same thing, grab a nice little flathead screwdriver bit, put that on, and unscrew. Now with all the screws released, all 4 screws are gone, we can just start prying at the speaker very delicately, moving it back and forth, and then it should be released, simply like that. And at this point, we are ready to remove the battery from the phone. So to take off the battery, we're going to need to do a few things. So this battery, you're going to notice, is connected by 6 little pull tabs, right here, 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 here. 3 on each side. So what these pull tabs kind of look like under the phone is like this. They're tiny little glue strips, and then all we need to do is pry up these tiny little tabs and pull in order to get all these glue tabs out. This could be a little tricky if this is your first repair, but I'd say once again, just take it slow and you should have no issue with these. So all you have to do is start picking at these tiny little tabs. Maybe use your fingers, use some tweezers, or mix of both. And then once you have your tab completely pulled off, you want to apply outwards pressure. You want to pull out and also angle it down if you can. And just like that, we have our first tab out. So you want to repeat that process on all 5 remaining tabs. And just like that, we have our battery out of the phone. So for installation of a new battery, you may notice that some batteries that you buy are going to have the adhesive already on the back of the phone, while others are not going to have any adhesive at all. So what you're gonna do if you don't have any of the adhesive on the new battery that you're dealing with, you're gonna have to go out and buy some of these pull tabs. And these things are probably about $1 each. They're pretty cheap. And all you have to do is basically unwrap these things and put them on the back of these phones. So I'm going to demonstrate that right now. And just like that, you just apply it to the back of the battery, making sure that for the charging port, the circle aligns with the circle on the charging port. And then once you are ready, you can just peel this back and then stick it back onto the phone. So now before we stick this battery back onto the phone, I want to make a quick point into aligning this battery. So if you align it too far towards this top edge like this and you hug this top edge, you're not going to be able to put the screen back onto the phone properly. So I would definitely recommend trying to get as close as you can towards the logic board instead of the edge, and leave like a tiny little gap between the edge, just so when time comes to put the screen back on, you are able to do so. So I'm going to start by peeling back the adhesive, making sure it is pressed into place and it's stuck to the battery. And peel out the adhesive. And I'm going to put the battery back into the phone. And just like that, we have our battery reinstalled into the phone. So all we need to do now is to reconnect the speaker and the Taptic engine, and then we should be able to put the screen back on and put all the screws back into place. I'm gonna start off by putting the speaker back into the phone once again. So we're gonna have to put 2 standoff screws right here, and then 2 Phillips screws right here and here. As a quick reminder, the standoff screws are the ones that we need the flathead to do. They look like this. And at this point, we can switch to our Phillips head. And then we can get those 2 Phillips screws back into place. One is going to be up on top of the standoff. And another one is going to be right here, near the connector for the Taptic engine. Like that, we have our speaker in place. So now we have to worry about getting our Taptic engine back into place. So we're going to start off by connecting this connector back into its port. And like that, it is back and connected. So we're going to have to get this tiny little brace piece that we pulled off of the Taptic engine and reinstall that right here. To reinstall this, as you remember, we just have to peel back this tiny little flap right here and then grab our Phillips head and put that screw back into place. Once this flap is back down, we can work on putting back the 2 screws for the Taptic engine. With those 2 screws in place, we can put this brace back. We are all set with our bottom. So right now, I usually like to put on the screen and test everything. This is a step that you could skip, but I like to do this just to make sure everything works as intended. So I'm going to start by reconnecting the screen. And then reconnect the battery. With everything reassembled, we can try to boot up the phone. And now that we see the phone boots up and works, everything is working fine about this phone, we can shut it down again. Grab our tiny little box, prop up the screen, and then disconnect the screen for a final time, along with the battery. Before we put everything back into place, you're going to notice that there's some black adhesive all around the edge of the phone. So this black adhesive is the waterproofing seal for your phone, and I would recommend every time when you open or finish doing a repair for your phone to replace the waterproofing seal with a new one. The reason why you want a new one is to keep all the dust and moisture out of the phone and give your phone the longest life possible. So before we put the seal back on, we're going to need to polish up the edges. So I usually like to just grab a tweezer and try to go around the corners and try to pick everything out. And then when I'm finished, I grab a little swab with a little alcohol on it and just give it a cleaning. So I'm going to start by picking out all the adhesive. With all the adhesive off of the body of the phone, we're going to shift our focus to the front screen as well. And on the screen, you're going to see some spots that have adhesive, like for instance, right over here, there's some as well. And you're going to do the same thing. Just use your tweezers to pick those off. So now, all you have to do is go and grab a little Q-tip, get a little bit of cleaning alcohol, and then give it a quick dab, just like that. And then you want to go back to your phone right here and just give it a quick coating on the edge, quick cleaning. This will ensure that no dust gets onto the seal and the seal can adhere properly to the phone. So once everything is clean, I usually like to grab a tiny little microfiber and give the insides a quick final cleaning before we close everything back up on the phone. So with that out of the way, all that is left is to put the seal back onto the phone. So the seal, you're going to have to align with the divots. So what I mean by this is that as you take a look, closer inspection upon it, you see how this phone grooves up and then down and then grooves up right here and down as well. You're going to take a look at the adhesive, and whichever side that follows the same path is how you want to put it. So as you can see, my divot mirrors what the phone is as well. This ensures that if you have it backwards, this orientation is obviously wrong. If you have it sideways, that orientation is obviously wrong. If you have it flipped, it's going to be wrong. So there's only going to be one way to put this on if you inspect closely enough. You're also going to notice that there's going to be holes all along this adhesive as well for the camera, and then all you have to do is align it as well. That's another way you can tell if you have the right orientation. So I'm going to start by peeling this adhesive back just a tiny bit, kind of like that. And then I'm going to do my best to align it with the phone. And then popping it up if I'm not satisfied with the fit. All right, so once I have that on, I'm gonna start peeling the adhesive back, putting tiny little pressure on it to make sure it sticks. I'm peeling back. And just like that, our adhesive is on the phone. So before we peel off this final layer, I like to go around with a little spudger and make sure everything is seated properly around the edges. Just a quick run around. Once that's ready, all you have to do is peel back. And then you can see how there's one last ring left. So before I peel this ring off, I usually like to get the screen reinstalled onto the phone, get the clips reinstalled back as well, and then peel this final layer off and readhese the phone together. Last final check, run the spudger around the edge of the phone one final time, just to make sure everything's nice and seated well. And then we can get moving on to getting the screen back onto the phone. And then finally, connect the battery. I'm gonna bring over the box again, just to use as a pry. We're gonna get our tiny little brackets, starting off with the little L bracket, throwing that back into the phone. Grabbing our WAD 000 bit, we're going to grab these tiny screws and put them back on. So one last tip that I have for trying to put these screws back onto the phone is to grab some type of magnet, kind of like this. This will magnetize it, so the screws will be able to stick to the end of the screwdriver bit like that. And that will make putting the screw back into the bracket a lot easier. And then we can put our final bracket back onto the phone and grab our 5 final screws and screw them back into place. All right, so now that we have every single screw back into the phone, we can save the final part, which is peeling back this adhesive strip. With that back in, we can shut the phone down, and we should be able to click it on all sides and get a crunch, and then one final crunch. All right, so now with the screen fully closed, all we need to do is grab our P2 bit and then put those 2 screws that we took at the beginning back into the phone. And just like that, our repair is finished. We have a new battery installed into our iPhone. All right, so that is going to conclude this repair video for today of showing you guys how to install an iPhone battery into your iPhone. So overall, some final thoughts on this repair is, if this is your first time, I would recommend just taking it slow. Don't be in a rush, do everything right. If you need to, try to rewatch this video as well and pause as many times as you need to try to get a full picture of how to do this repair thoroughly and properly. That said, this is going to conclude this video. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more iPhone repairs, maybe you want to see a screen repair or any more electronic repairs, I'm going to be posting more videos in the future, so stay tuned for that.